Thank you, Dr. Marcus. You are an exemplar for all of us. Would Ambassador Jeffrey L. Bleich please join us? Jeffrey Bleich, when President Barack Obama asked you to serve in his new administration, our nation and the globe call the talents of a man of exceptional achievement and high principles. Throughout your legal and public service career, you have used the reach of your intellect and the power of your chosen profession, the law, to advocate for public education, for human rights, and for international justice. Your strong social conscience showed itself early. After graduating with high honors from Amherst College, you spent a year working on juvenile justice issues as a Caro Foundation Fellow, then accepted a fellowship at Harvard's Kennedy School for Public Policy. Harvard degree in hand, you came west and earned your law degree from UC Berkeley, once again graduating with highest honors. Exceptional success followed quickly. A clerkship for Supreme Court Chief Justice William Rehnquist, and then our special prosecutor for the Iran-U.S. Claims Tribunal at The Hague. Back in California, you joined a prestigious San Francisco law firm and quickly made partner, while winning recognition as one of the nation's top lawyers and heading both the San Francisco and the State Bar Associations. You worked with more than 20 nonprofit Bay Area organizations. You won funding to provide legal services for the poor and to encourage children from minority groups to pursue legal careers. But you, Jeffrey Bleich, have moved equally powerfully on a national stage. President Bill Clinton tapped you to head his White House Council on Youth Violence, and you later co-chaired the Higher Education Advisory Board for the Obama campaign. And after the election, you became special counsel to the president. You are a powerful advocate for public higher education, and at a time of crisis, you serve both as vice chair and as chair of the California State University Board of Trustees. Jeffrey Bleich, when you took the oath of office as ambassador, you spoke of helping, and I quote, to build a world where nations commit to finding common ground to create the future we seek for our children. There's no finer summation of the aims of San Francisco State University and of the California State University, and we are proud to honor you today.
The California State University, on the recommendation of San Francisco State University, hereby confers on Jeffrey L. Bleich the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws with all of the rights, privileges, and honors pertaining thereto.
Class of 2011, who better to speak to you today than the man we have just honored? I am delighted to present to you now our commencement speaker, Ambassador Jeffrey Bleich. Dr. Bleich.
Well, thank you very much, President Corrigan, or as we say down in Australia, good on you, mate. I'm very honored to be here today with you and with my colleagues from the Board of Trustees, Chancellor Charlie Reed and Trustee Bob Linscheid. Also, it's very cool to be on the same stage with the great Jimmy Cobb. But most of all, it's a great honor for me to join George Marcus and all of you here today as a graduate of this, the great San Francisco State University class of 2011. You know, as a former trustee, I've walked this campus many times. I've met with thousands of students, and I've attended many graduations. And I've had the great fortune to experience all of California's higher education system as a student, as a graduate, as an alum, as a professor, as an employer, and as a trustee. I've seen it from here, I've seen it from DC, I've seen it from the other side of the world. This experience has been part of my life for over 2 decades, and it's been more than just professional. It has been deeply personal. And so nothing satisfies me more than to be one of you today and to see all of you graduates. And nothing concerns me more than the very real chance that many other Californians will never have the same opportunity. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about today. I came to California because of the education system. I'd grown up in Connecticut, and I attended college back east on partial scholarships and financial aid. Like a lot of you, I worked part-time during the school year, and I held down 2, sometimes 3 full-time jobs during the summer. Yeah. But by the time of my first year of grad school, I'd actually maxed out all of my financial aid, and I was relying on loans that charged 14% interest. So going to law school had always been my dream, and being a lawyer had been my dream. But in 1986, I had almost no hope of that dream. My wife, Becky, and I, we simply couldn't afford the tuition to go to any law schools back east. I applied to the University of California, Berkeley Law School because it was the only law school in the country we could afford, only top law school, and it turned out to be the greatest education I've ever received. And I got it because the people of California, its leaders and its taxpayers, were willing to invest in me. So for the past 20 years since I graduated, I've felt a duty to pay back the people of this state. When I had to figure out, right. When I had to figure out, where to build a practice, where to buy a home, where to raise my family, volunteer my time and my energy, I chose California. And I joined a small California firm, Munger, Tolles & Olson, and eventually became a partner there. The firm grew, we attracted more and more good lawyers, and in fact, for the last 3 years, it's been ranked the #1 firm in the United States. But that success is also California's success. It's meant millions of dollars in taxes paid to California, hundreds of thousands of hours of volunteer time devoted to California, houses built and investments made in California, and hundreds of talented people attracted to work in and to help California. My story isn't unique. It's a story of California's rise from the 1960s up through the 1990s. Millions of people stayed here, and they succeeded here because of their California education. Silicon Valley, Hollywood, aerospace, energy, clean tech, the farmlands that feed most of the people in this nation came from that simple understanding that if you invest in people, if you make a sacrifice today for their future, your own future will be rewarded. Now, you and I and everyone graduating here today benefited from the foresight of an earlier generation that recognized that it had a duty to pay it forward. That was the bargain that California made when it established the California Master Plan for Higher Education back in 1960. And the idea was very simple. Make California the state where every qualified and committed person can receive a low-cost, high-quality education, and all of us are going to benefit. We'd attract and retain the leaders of the future, and that would make the state grow bigger and stronger. And it works. The numbers even confirm this. Economists found that for every dollar that the state invests in a CSU student, it receives $4.41 back in return. So as someone who has lived the California dream, there is absolutely nothing more painful to me, and I hope to all of you, than to see this dream dying. This dream is being starved to death by a public that thinks that any government service, even public education, is not worth paying for. And by too many political leaders who don't lead us, but instead give in to our worst, most short-sighted instincts. These latest $500 million cut in the CSU system, it merely reflects trends that have been hurting California public education for years. And it's not just Democrat or Republican. Both sides have failed us. To win votes, political leaders from both parties mandated prison sentence, long prison sentences, that forced us to stop building schools and start building prisons. To pay prison guards more and to give students less. Back in the 1980s, California spent more than 5 times as much on higher education than it did on prisons. Today it spends more on prisons than on higher education. Let me give you an even clearer example. The first time Governor Brown was governor, there were 40,000 prisoners in California. Today, there are over 40,000 prison guards in California. This has happened in just the span of one political career. For the last 2 decades, we have been starving higher education. California's public universities and community colleges have half as much to spend today as they did in 1990 in real dollars. If the UC Berkeley Law School tuition today was what it was in was that in 1986, I wouldn't have been able to go to law school. I wouldn't be a Californian. The promise of low-cost education that brought me here and so many others here and kept us here has been abandoned. Our K-12 system has fallen from the top ranks just 30 years ago to 47th in the nation in per pupil spending. Yeah, boo. And at every trustee meeting that I attended, we saw this in human terms. We heard the painful stories of faculty members who couldn't make ends meet and feed a family on their salaries. We met students who were on financial edge because they're working 2 jobs, taking care of a child, and barely making it with their current tuition. And today, everyone in our system is making terrible sacrifices. Employee furloughs, student fee increases, campus-based cuts in services and programs, and this is wrong. And what's more important, it is unfair because the cost of education should be shared by all of us because the benefit of education is shared by all of us. Now today, living and serving in the Asia Pacific, I see this more clearly than I ever did before. America doesn't have the world's largest population or the most natural resources. We're not the only democracy or the only free market. And so why are we the wealthiest nation in the world, 3 times wealthier, greater than any other nation? Our advantage in the world is that we make things that no one else in the world can make. We dream things that no one else dares to dream. Our advantage has been knowledge and imagination. Our advantage has been that 28% of Americans have college degrees, which is 4 times the average of any other of the world. These are the minds that invented television, personal computers, the internet, that put people on the moon, that created the film industry, the film school, the Twitter accounts that you're using right now while I'm talking, that invented carbon-free fuels and electric cars. This is what we are giving up if we don't reclaim California's commitment to higher education. Today, for the first time, we trail dozens of other countries in math and science. In one generation, we've gone from first in the world to 9th in the percentage of young people with college degrees. what made California great 50 years ago, and what can keep California great, is the belief that it doesn't have to be like this. It's the faith that we can solve any problem as long as we do two things. First, acknowledge the problem, and second, work together. Recently, that faith has been missing. In the face of a $500 million cut to this system, we have some protests from some current students and some faculty, but where are the voices of the 2.5 million CSU graduates and the 1.5 million UC graduates who've benefited their entire lives from their public education? Californians won't acknowledge it, but we have lost the commitment to invest in one another. And that is why we have lost our way in decision after decision. We have gone from investing in the future to borrowing from it. We can change this. Now, the president set a national goal of being first again in college graduate rates by 2020, and he's increased student aid in order to help accomplish this. But he can't do this alone. The solution's simple, but it's also very hard. It's what I'm doing right now. Tell what is happening to every person who can hear it. Beat this drum until it cannot be ignored. Shame your neighbors who think the government needs to be starved and who are happy to see Sacramento paralyzed. Remind your fellow alums who've been silent that they live today in the wealthiest state, in the wealthiest nation in human history, not by some divine right, but because others invested in schools like San Francisco State. Raise your voice and multiply its power by enlisting other new graduates and alums and your parents and your mentors and your employers, all of those who are investing in you, all of those millions of voices. Because 50 years ago, that many voices charted this state towards greatness. And that many voices can wake up this state again to rediscover its greatness. It takes nothing more or less than that you give of yourself. Contribute to your alumni fund. Give time to help encourage and mentor students who are coming up through the system. Give thanks and give credit to your teachers. And when you run into people who dismiss public education, who demand cuts for cuts' sake, I want you to give them something too. I want you to give them hell. Because if you don't, then who will? Because if we don't, then we'll be the generation that let the promise for a great California die. So I congratulate us, but I challenge us. Take this great education that you have and reclaim that right for others. Because no matter what you have done up until now, and no matter what you choose to do, know that you have the ability, each and every one of you, to make education affordable to everyone and to write the next chapter in the great California story. Thank you.